Hello. So we're just gonna get right into this video. For the past 4 weeks, I guess you could say, I've been at like a crossroads, trying to remember and figure out why I started any of this in the first place. If you watched, some of the other videos, like a little bit about me and, the places I've lived in. I've just gone through a lot of stuff in my life, try to make the most of it and garner knowledge from those things, but honestly, I guess longer than these past 4 weeks. For the past, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, I just really been in a rut. I started to forget why I started any of this in the first place, why I bothered to get back up and keep trying, why I wake up every day in the morning and even bother to do any of this at all. And I think it was mainly the fact that I kind of lost my purpose. For a good minute now, I've been really big into like consuming stuff, and I didn't realize the toll it was taking on me. So, like for context, I work somewhere where it's like a lot of consumerism. It's like a mall, so you know peak consumerism basically. And every day I see these people, every single day, buy this and buy that, flex, try to impress each other, do this, do that, etc., etc. And the consumerism just has always really not meshed with me. And even though I may not be out like buying, whatever watch or diamond or clothes or coffee or anything, it doesn't really matter. I'm still doing a lot of consumption because even when I'm home, I'm either watching TV or I'm playing video games or I'm reading a book. And you could say, oh, well, reading is fine, but you're still consuming content in a way. The antithesis to consumption is creation, and there's zero creation in my life as of right now, apart from these videos that I just randomly decide to put out every maybe 2 months, but it's not consistent. And I think that's why I've been feeling so disconnected from, this journey I'm on, so disconnected from myself, because I haven't done any real creation in a very, very, very long time. I mentioned in one of the other videos before, I'm a creative being. That's what I am. That's what I do. And when I don't create for too long, I start to feel lackluster. I feel like my soul isn't in my body, like damn near almost literally. And these past couple months, I noticed that it all traced back to when I started doing more consumption over creation. So playing games, that's fine, but too much of it can be a bad thing. Watching TV, TikTok, like I said, even reading. Sure, reading is more beneficial for you, people could say, but you're still consuming someone else's content. I'm not making anything. I think that's where my own personal energy has started getting sapped, because when I'm not in creation, when I'm not aligned with my purpose as a creative being, because we all are creative beings, that's what souls are, doing their task and embodied vessels like we have, whatever. But the point is, when I'm not creating, I feel, like shit, more or less. So I was just trying to figure out what I could do to bring that spark back. And I remembered, the more I create, the closer I feel to, God or the source or whatever you want to call it, whatever deity you prefer, it doesn't really matter. But that's how I feel connected to nature, God, universe, source, whatever you want to call it. When I'm creating stuff, either it's making a YouTube video or, writing my stuff that I write, or, drawing, or anything where I'm actively creating something, where I'm fueling the creative output, I feel more like myself. I feel better than myself. I feel bigger than me in a weird way, but it's hard to explain. But I was wondering where that spark had gone, and it's missing because I haven't been doing any creating. And I was wondering in the beginning of this journey, what was I going to do at the end? I wondered, where does this lead? For a long time, I was like super depressed, and I had no path, and I didn't know what I was going to do, and et cetera, et cetera. And I still don't. And I don't know if I ever really will. But the person that I was before and the person that I am now are entirely different. So I guess I assumed that during this point of evolution that I'm going through or whatever, that I could just continue to do the same things, the same consuming things, the same consumptive things that worked for the past version of me. He read books, he played games, he watched movies, he was on TikTok, he did a lot of consumption. And I realize now that the version of me that I am now is a creative being. He's not a consumer, not as much anymore. Like, yeah, am I still gonna watch TV? Of course. I'm watching Stranger Things right now. I'm not gonna not watch it. But the creation needs to outweigh the consumption. It's a balance. Creation, for me personally, from my own experience, creation and consumption should not be 50-50. And obviously, consumption shouldn't be overriding creation. It's like, if this is creation and this is consumption, creation should always be holding way more than consumption ever does. If it was up to me, which it is, it's my life, it's under my own power, creation should be 70% and consumption should be like 30%. I have full capability in my life to make that a reality, but I just choose not to do it, so that's on me. But for the example, over these past couple months, I've realized that the consumption was at like damn near 80%. And honestly, if I'm being 100%, the consumption was at like 90%, and the creation was at like 10%. And that's where the disconnect has happened. And I caught myself recently, because I was like, what am I doing? I go to work, I come home, and I'm not creating anything. I'm just watching TV, or I'm just, doing a bunch of consumption, brain dead things. If that's your thing, I'm sorry. No disrespect to you, but it's not my thing. It's not the thing I choose to do anymore for this new version of myself. And I realized that continuing to be this new version of myself takes effort, because without that effort, I just slip back into old habits. The old pattern, the old archetype that I was living out of will just continue to resurface unless I do the hallmarks of the new self, which is do creative outlets. The hallmark, how I'm anchoring my new version of my own, of my own new being in this reality, is by performing creative acts. The old version of me was a consumptive being. The new version of me is a creative being. So if I want to keep being the new version of me, I have to keep doing creative things over consumptive things, if that makes any sense. But there's also another thing recently that I was thinking of. So I'm just gonna be super 100% vulnerable. No one's watching these. For a very, 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 very long time, all I wanted in my life was like romance, a girlfriend, love, whatever you want to call it. And, I was obsessed over it until pretty recently. I believed that it was the one thing in like the whole of reality that can make me happy. Because, the mother wound that I have from early childhood made me believe that if I could get, female attention from some other girl that my mom didn't properly give me, that would make the wound close, if that makes sense. So for years, I've been obsessed over that one goal I made in my entire reality. Saying it out loud now sounds kind of cringe, I know, but it's the truth. And it's the truth that I had to confront, fairly recently, because I'm chasing this external thing. My mom didn't give me the stuff that I needed, so now I'm trying to find that in some other girl and believing that some girl can replace my mom and give me what I think I need. But the truth is, even if my mom didn't give me what I needed, that thing can never be given by anyone else. It can't be given by my mom because she's incapable, and it can't be given by someone else because that's not their job, and they're also incapable. You can't go trying to find the ailment to your wounds and other people. It just doesn't really work like that. Wounds like that, such as my own mother wound, can only really be healed by yourself. I had to come to terms with that, and I realized that all of my consuming I was doing was just me trying to avoid wounds. Much more than just my mother wound, but multiple wounds. I've got plenty, but this video isn't about that. The point is that I realized that what I did before with consuming, it worked back then to numb those wounds because I didn't know how to heal them. But I think I'm starting to understand now that instead of numbing them or putting a band-aid on them, the key to actually healing those wounds is through creation. I can't quite explain why. I don't know why I feel that, but I'm just feeling like the opposite of what I was doing is probably the antidote, to what I need. It's not going to, be a one fix all for everything, but the energy is such a contrast from the running away, from the numbing, from the shutting down. Creating, making videos, doing whatever, any kind of creation, it opens me up. It makes me feel whole again. It makes me feel better. It gives me that spark. It makes me feel connected to the things bigger than myself. So, it's not going to heal everything. It's not going to make everything better, but it's a hell of a lot better than what I was doing before, trying to find, whatever in some other girl or in this person or in that person or in this thing or et cetera, which leads me into my next point, which this video was mainly about. That's all kind of just backstory for this topic. But the topic really is about wholeness. So over these past couple of months, I've been trying to figure out what can make me whole. Because, I've always felt like I had this void. I don't have the best relationship with my parents. I don't have too many family that I really, have in my life. I have like one or two friends, but, it's kind of just what they are. And, I thought maybe I could be one of those people that throws myself into a career or throws myself into a hobby or throws myself into gaming or this or that or whatever. For a while, I was like going hardcore to the gym, but, there's so many things I felt like I needed to throw myself into to feel something, to be worthy, to feel whole, to feel valuable, to feel needed, to feel important. And I realized that seeking those things externally is really insanity when you think about it. How many people on this planet every single day do things so that they can get, validation from another person, or so that they can feel valuable, or so that they can feel whole, or so that they can feel whatever it is they're trying to feel. And by chasing those things externally, you are just constantly always saying to yourself that you don't have it. And, especially for me over these past couple of days, working where I work and seeing all the people at that mall and how they chase these things and how they try to impress these people and how they try to get this stuff to get whatever external result. It's like, they're chasing a feeling that they could just simply have if they chose to have. We're all chasing wholeness at the end of the day, completion, value. You want to feel appreciated, you want to feel whatever. You can just feel those things now on your own. You don't need the external stimuli to make you feel that thing. You can just feel it on your own. For me, I wanted to feel whole. I wanted, to feel like I, mattered, I guess, and I do. I realize that now, but I didn't understand what it was that had me continuously seeking the external things until I really started working at this mall and I understood the logic behind those things. They're like carrots on a stick. It's always the next thing, chasing whatever external stimuli you can to produce the internal result. And if you're always chasing external stimuli to produce an internal result, you're always going to need the external stimuli to produce the internal result. What you're looking for is the internal result. What you're looking for is a sensation of wholeness, but you don't need something external to make you feel whole. You can just feel whole right now. And I know that sounds a little weird, sounds a little crazy. You're like, how can I just feel whole without having anything? Wholeness is a feeling. You can feel whatever you want to feel whenever you want to feel it. The external things are like, triggers or stimuli, but they're not the thing that actually causes the feeling. Your feeling is caused by the reaction to that stimuli, but you can choose your feelings. I said that in another video. You can feel whatever you want to feel whenever you want to. You can feel happy, you can feel sad, you can feel excited, you can feel anxious. You are in complete control of your emotions at any point in time. And you can feel whole whenever you want to feel whole. And the realization of that honestly kind of changed my whole, trajectory of what I was doing and why I was doing it. I do all of this. I wanted a girlfriend. I wanted more money. I wanted, people to look at me and say I mattered, all so that I could feel whole. But I can just feel whole right now. I don't need my wounds from my parents to be healed to feel wholeness. I could just choose to feel whole. I don't need some girl to, tell me that I matter to feel whole. I don't need, $1 billion. I don't need a fancy car. I don't need status and all this stuff. I can feel whatever I want to feel whenever I want to. That's what we all want, is to just feel wholeness, but that's something that no one can give you. You can only really be, wholeness is something you give to yourself. You don't need another person or a thing or a symbol to feel that emotion. It's just simply an emotion that you can feel at any point in time. I know it sounds a little weird, but if you try it, you'll understand what I mean. If you just try it right now, just feel the feeling of wholeness. You come to find out you don't need external stimuli for that. You can just feel it. You feel it in your heart, you feel it in your mind, you feel it in your soul. You can just feel whole. And once you feel whole consciously, as often as you want, you realize that you don't need anything else anymore, because that's the one feeling you always wanted. You don't need the external stimuli to feel whole, you just are. You don't need the money to feel whole, you just are. You don't need the girl to feel whole, you just are a guy, whatever your preference is, whatever. But whatever, you don't need that person to feel whole. You're seeking wholeness. That's the emotion you're trying to feel. That's the void you feel that you're lacking. For most people, it is for me. If you're watching this video, it's probably for you too. But you can just simply feel that feeling. If you close your eyes or whatever, keep them open, and you just imagine the sensation of feeling whole, that's what you're looking for. You can feel that whenever you want. No one can give that to you. No one really should be giving it to you. It's just something you naturally produce on your own. They sell us all this crap to make us think that we need that thing to feel this emotion, but you can feel whatever emotion you want all the time. It sounds a little cuckoo, but imagine you want to feel thrilled. You could close your eyes right this second and imagine yourself on a roller coaster, feeling the same sensations and emotions that you would if you were actually there. And it will produce the exact same, well, maybe not the exact same because you still have the physical stimuli, but it will produce similar feelings you would have if you were there. You have to remember, the body, it's like an avatar. It's an interactive avatar, but all the things that it interacts with are just so that it can produce internal feelings. You can close your eyes and imagine whatever scenario you want to have happen. You can, the imagination is a very powerful tool, and we're not really fully utilizing it because we feel like we need other things to give us what we can already produce on our own. So it sounds a little crazy, but it's a very different kind of way of being than what we're taught. We're taught the external produces the internal, but it's actually the opposite. The internal produces the external, and that's what feeling wholeness is about. Because when you feel whole, 9 times out of 10, you're no longer seeking validation. You're no longer doing things out of desperation. You're no longer doing things because you feel lack, or because you feel like you need to be validated, or because you feel like you need to be seen. You're just a complete being, and that does change how you interact with other people. It changes how they see you. It changes what you say. It changes what you think. It changes what you feel. Feeling whole is honestly the goal of life. And we do all these things and we chase all the stuff because we're trying to replicate that feeling of wholeness that we maybe had once or twice, but you can just feel that emotion right now. And another thing that's like, I guess, like a fourth topic is that for a long time, all I wanted was unconditional love. I couldn't get that from my parents. Their love is quite conditional. And for a long time I was like, if I can find that in another person, if I can build myself up to be this guy with this stuff and blah 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 blah, then I can have my pick of the litter and I can find some girl who can give me unconditional love. But I realized that unconditional love doesn't have to be romantic. So I might have mentioned it in like another video, or maybe I haven't, but I have a sister. She's my older sister. She's my best friend in the entire universe. I love my sister to death. And I never really realized that I've always had unconditional love inside of my sister this whole time. I just was unaware that that's the container that it was residing in. So ironically, by trying to find what I was looking for out in the world, in these other girls or in these other situations or people or scenarios or whatever status jobs, I just finally was able to recognize that what I wanted, unconditional love, I've always had in my sister since day one. And it's taken me all these experiences to recognize that the thing I was looking for was literally right beside me the entire time. And there's probably things in your own life that if you were to look at, you would probably also find, the thing I want is right here. I only went looking for unconditional love because I already felt it through my sister, and I was trying to replicate what we had, but there can't be anything that can replicate that because unconditional love doesn't really exist in outside scenarios. It's like me and my sister, we've gone through a lot together. We still do on a regular basis, but throughout all of it, we never left each other's side. We never 100% abandoned each other, even when we were going through our own stuff. And that produced unconditional love that can't be replicated without those shared experiences. So, me trying to find unconditional love in another person by just trying to force it, by me being this desirable guy or whatever, was never going to work, because the only way unconditional love was able to be produced was by having years and years of those shared conditional experiences, and two people, me and my sister, actively choosing to remain there for each other through those experiences. So yeah, it sounds a little ridiculous now, but I understand. And that's where wholeness comes from. I was looking for unconditional love. I was trying to replace my mother wound. I was trying to do this. But I already have unconditional love in my sister. That wound can't be replaced or healed by consuming or by numbing it. It can only be healed by me living my life and realizing that even though my parents and my mom gave me wounds, that doesn't take away from who I am. So now the feeling of wholeness is starting to become more present, because I realized I was never broken, if that makes sense. The thing I was looking for, I already had, and the wounds that were given to me never took away from who I was. I just believed they were, because that's why I was convinced by other people that I need to heal this or I need to heal that. But I already have, by doing the work, by recognizing the pattern of where those things came from, and realizing that what I wanted I already had and will always have, and that things that hurt me didn't define me. Sounds obvious, but it's taken me a long time to get to this point, and I'm grateful that I've gotten to this point now, instead of waiting another decade. Because all the work I've been doing on myself, the internal work, is what has produced these external results. Had I not gone into the depths of my psyche, and had I not, questioned reality and the universe and stuff like God and Satan and Jesus and hell and heaven and aliens and whatever, had I not gone down the rabbit hole of the outer rims of reality, I wouldn't have understood that the things I wanted, I already am. And the things I was trying to seek out, I already know. And the thing I was trying to become, I already am. So, yeah, a little bit of a tangent, but the whole aspect of this video is that whatever you are thinking of, whatever you are trying to do, you are probably just trying to replicate a feeling that you think you want to have. You can just skip the external chase of trying to get this thing or be with that person or have that place or be wherever, and just have the emotion you want to have. And by having the emotion you want to have, by knowing that what you want you already have, it'll produce the feeling of wholeness, which is what you're lacking. And that feeling of wholeness will complete you. And once you're complete, you don't need anything. And once you don't need anything, you have everything. So I know this video was a little all over the place, but I wanted to get this one out there. I felt like it was pretty important. So you guys take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.